The Princess Who Hated Humans. The sky above Earth was gold and red. A big alien ship slowly landed near the mountains. Birds flew away. Trees shook. Animals ran. But the man inside the cabin didn't move. He was cutting wood with a strong axe. His name was Jace. Far above, inside the alien ship, Princess Thalia stood with her arms crossed. Her silver eyes burned with anger. Her voice echoed through the ship. "I don't want a human husband." The alien guards looked down. No one dared speak. A tall man in dark robes, Chancellor Varnak, stood beside her. He bowed a little and said, "It is not a choice, Your Highness. The Council has decided. You must marry a human. A peace bond between our worlds." Thalia turned sharply. Her long purple hair swung behind her. "Humans are violent, dirty, weak. I will not marry one." Varnak stayed calm. "This human is different. His name is Jace. He lives alone. No family, no politics. He is strong, brave, quiet." Thalia looked at a glowing screen on the wall. It showed Jace walking back to his cabin. His shirt was torn. His face had a scar. His eyes looked tired, but calm. "Why him?" she asked. "He saved many alien lives during the last war," Varnak said. "He refused medals. He wanted peace. He never returned to the army. We believe he is the one." Thalia stared at the screen. She didn't say a word, but deep inside, something strange moved in her chest, a feeling she didn't understand. Jace put down his axe. He looked at the sky. The ship was quiet now, but he knew someone was watching him. He felt it. He walked into his wooden cabin and sat by the fire. Then, without warning, the door opened. A tall alien woman stepped in. She wore royal armor. Her eyes were cold. Her skin was smooth and blue. It was Thalia. "Are you Jace?" she asked. Jace didn't stand. He just nodded. "I am. I am Princess Thalia of the Ileri Empire," she said loudly. "I was sent to meet you." Jace looked into her eyes. No fear, no surprise, just calm. "I didn't invite you," he said. Thalia was shocked. No one ever spoke to her like that. She stepped closer. "Do you know why I'm here?" Jace nodded again. "To marry a human. You don't like it. I don't like it either." Thalia's mouth opened, but no words came. She expected him to beg, to scream, to be nervous. But he was quiet, strong. She touched his table and frowned. "You live like an animal." "I live in peace," he replied. For a moment, there was silence. Thalia walked around the cabin. She picked up a photo on the wall. It showed Jace in a soldier's uniform, holding a small alien child in his arms. "Who is this?" she asked. "A girl I saved a long time ago," he said, "during the war." Thalia stared at the photo. Something in her heart felt heavy. Her hand shook a little, but she quickly put the photo down. "Do you hate aliens?" she asked. "No," Jace said. "Only war." Later that night, Thalia sat alone in the ship. She watched Jace again on the screen. He was fixing his door, drinking tea. Quiet, calm, strong. Varnak entered. "Did you speak with him?" Thalia nodded slowly. "Yes." "And?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said softly, "He is not what I expected." Varnak looked at her. The best people never are. Back on Earth, Jace took out a small box. Inside was a piece of metal. A medal from the war. He never showed it to anyone. He held it tight. His eyes looked far away. "I kept my promise," he whispered. The human with no fear. The wind howled through the forest. Trees swayed, and dry leaves danced across the ground. Jace stood by the edge of the river near his cabin, washing blood from his knuckles. The blood was not his. Behind him, the alien guard still lay unconscious. They had tried to test him, challenge him, like he was some weak earth creature. They were wrong. Princess Thalia had watched it all. Hidden in the trees, she didn't blink once. He didn't even flinch, she whispered. There was something terrifying about Jace, not because he was cruel, but because he was calm in the face of everything. Calm like water before a storm. Thalia stepped out from the shadows. Jace turned, his sharp eyes meeting hers. No fear, just quiet strength. I told them not to touch me, he said softly. They didn't listen. Thalia said nothing. For the first time in her life, she was unsure of what to say. No one had ever frightened her. Not until now. And what frightened her wasn't his strength, it was his silence. His stillness. She crossed her arms, trying to stay cold. You're not like the other humans. Jace gave a small nod. You're not like the other aliens either. That sentence made her blink. She walked closer. Why are you not afraid of me? I've seen things worse than you, Jace said. She narrowed her eyes. Like what? He didn't answer. He simply turned and walked back toward the cabin, leaving her standing by the river, full of questions she wasn't used to having. Later that evening, the fire cracked inside Jace's cabin. Thalia sat in a chair across from him, studying his face in the orange glow. She had ordered her guards to stay outside. Do you always live alone like this? She asked. Yes. Why? No one left, he said. I lost them. Long ago. Thalia tilted her head. In the war. Jace nodded. She didn't press him, but the silence between them grew heavier. Finally, Jace reached into a small wooden box and took out something wrapped in cloth. He opened it slowly. It was a small necklace. The pendant was shaped like a leaf. An alien design. Thalia gasped. That's Ilari. From the old kingdom. I know, Jace said. I was given this by a dying mother. She asked me to find her daughter. Protect her. She said she had no one else. Thalia's hands trembled. Her voice dropped. Where did this happen? Near the city of Velith, he said. 12 years ago, during the siege. Thalia stood up fast. Her chair fell backward. Her breathing changed. Velith. That was where she had been hidden as a child. That was where she lost her mother. Do you know what the child looked like? She asked. Jace stared into the fire. Small. Blue skin. White hair. Wounded arm. She was under rubble. I pulled her out and carried her across fire and smoke. Then the soldiers came. I passed her to them. Thalia's voice shook. That was me. The cabin fell silent. Jace looked up, his eyes soft now. I thought so. Thalia's heart raced. Her mother's last words had been a whisper. A human saved you. Find him. Trust him. And here he was. Outside, the guards were restless. The Chancellor sent a message. Rebels are moving. The princess is in danger. Prepare to leave Earth immediately. But Thalia didn't move. She looked at Jace now with new eyes. He had saved her life. Not just once. Twice. First in war. Now again. Why didn't you tell me before? She asked. You hated humans, he said. I didn't want your thanks. I just needed to know you were alive. The way he said it made her feel something strange. Like the ground had shifted under her feet. She whispered, all this time, I thought humans were monsters. Jace didn't smile. Some are, but so are some aliens. It's never about the species. It's the soul. That night, Thalia couldn't sleep. She stood outside the cabin, watching the stars. One of them was her home world, Ilari Prime. Her people wanted peace, but they didn't understand what peace cost. She looked over her shoulder. Jace was fixing the roof. Quiet, focused, always doing something with his hands, like he needed to keep them busy to forget the past. She remembered how the other alien warriors had mocked him, called him pet, primitive, dustborn. And yet, he had walked through fire to save her. She turned and asked him, do you believe peace is possible? Jace looked up. Only if people stop seeing each other as enemies. Only if they remember. Remember what? That pain is the same in every language. Thalia felt her throat tighten. No human had ever spoken to her like this. Suddenly, a loud explosion shattered the night. The trees lit up. The ground shook. Jace jumped down, pulling a rifle from under the steps. Thalia drew her twin blades. Her guards ran toward them, shouting, "Princess, it's the rebels. They'd found you." Thalia cursed under her breath. "They want to stop the Union. They want war," Jace said. Thalia grabbed his arm. "We have to move." Jace looked her in the eyes. "No, we fight." Before she could argue, plasma shots came flying. Jace pulled her to the ground and rolled behind cover. He returned fire, fast and precise. He wasn't just strong. He was trained. A ghost from old wars. Thalia fought beside him. She moved like a shadow. Fast, deadly. The rebels didn't expect the human to fight like this. 2 went down. Then 3. One rebel yelled, "Why protect the human?" Thalia shouted back, "Because he protected me first." When the last rebel fell, silence returned to the forest. Jace sat on a rock, breathing hard, a burn mark on his side. Thalia dropped to her knees beside him. "You're hit." "It's nothing," he said. "It's something," she replied, ripping a piece of cloth and pressing it against the wound. Jace didn't stop her. She looked into his face. For the first time, she saw pain. Not from the burn, but from old wounds deep inside. She whispered, "I hated humans, but I think I was wrong." Jace closed his eyes. "I don't care what you think of me. I only care that you live." Thalia's hand stopped. "Why?" she asked softly. Jace opened his eyes. "Because I made a promise. And because maybe I see you." The promise that changed everything. The fire inside Jace's cabin had died out, but something else now burned in the air. Truth. Princess Thalia sat across from Jace, her mind spinning. The human she hated was the one who had saved her life long ago. The same one her dying mother had whispered about. The same one who had carried her through fire. For 12 years, she had locked that memory away. A child's memory, blurred by smoke and fear. But now it was clear. The way he had touched her hand back then, the scar across his knuckles. His voice, steady and strong, saying, "You'll be okay, little one." It had all come back. "You were there," she whispered. "You saved me in Velov." Jace didn't look proud. He didn't smile. He only said, "Yes." Thalia's fingers trembled as she reached into the folds of her cloak. She pulled out a small bracelet. It was old, made of stone and soft metal. A child's bracelet, burnt on one side. She placed it gently on the table between them. "I was wearing this the day you found me," she said. "My mother gave it to me." Jace stared at the bracelet for a long time. Then he reached out and closed her fingers around it. "I remember." Outside, the wind howled again. Guards patrolled the trees nervously. The rebel attack had changed everything. Thalia had called her father, the Emperor, just moments ago. She had told him about the attack. "You must return home at once," the Emperor had said. "The rebels are growing. You are not safe with the human. The peace treaty can wait." But Thalia had paused. "Father, I need more time." Now, inside the cabin, she looked at Jace with new eyes. She was no longer a princess speaking to a human. She was a woman trying to understand a man who had once risked everything for her. And he was a man trying to carry a promise no one else remembered. "Why did you do it?" she asked. "Why save me that day?" Jace didn't answer right away. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. His voice was low. "Because your mother begged me. Because I couldn't walk away from a child. Because I knew what it felt like to lose everything." Thalia frowned. "You lost family in the war." He nodded. Wife. Son. The rebels bombed the refugee center where they stayed. I was too late. Her heart dropped. Jace continued. After that, I left the army. But one day, we got a call. A small town under attack. I went with a rescue team. That's where I found you. Thalia's eyes welled up, but she blinked fast. You never told anyone. They would have used you, he said. Turned you into a story. A trophy. I just wanted to make sure you lived. She looked down at her hands. You kept your promise. Jace looked at her. And I still am. They sat in silence for a while. Then Thalia stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars were bright. One of them blinked red, a message from her ship. The council will not wait, she said. They expect me to announce my husband within 2 days. Jace's voice was quiet. And you're still supposed to choose a human. Yes. He didn't ask anything else, but the question hung in the air like smoke. Would she choose him? Thalia turned back to him. I don't trust easily, she said. I was taught that humans are dangerous, that they only care about power. But now, she walked closer to him. Now I see something else. Jace met her eyes, but he said nothing. The next day, Thalia received a secret message from her home planet. It was short, but terrifying. Rebels have entered the royal palace. The emperor is missing. Trust no one. The peace treaty may be a trap. Thalia's breath caught. The rebels had moved faster than anyone expected. This wasn't just about her anymore. Jace noticed her shaking hands. What happened? They've taken the palace, she whispered. My father may be gone. Jace stood up. Then you're next. She looked up at him. What do we do? We run, he said, but not to hide. To find proof, something that will make them stop this war. They left the cabin before sunrise. Jace carried only a small pack and his old rifle. Thalia wore a cloak over her royal armor. Together, they moved through the trees toward the mountains. Where are we going? She asked. To a place only a few humans and aliens know about, Jace said. An old battlefield, where something was hidden. Something powerful. What is it? He looked back at her. The truth. Hours later, they reached a broken cave near the edge of a cliff. The entrance was covered with vines. Jace moved them aside carefully. Inside, strange carvings glowed faint blue. Thalia stepped in and froze. This is ancient Ilari script, she whispered. They moved deeper into the cave. The walls showed paintings, humans and aliens fighting together, side by side, against a great enemy made of fire and shadows. There was a time, Jace said, when your people and mine were allies. No one teaches this history, Thalia said, because it would change everything. They reached the end of the cave. There, a round stone door sat sealed. Jace reached into his pack and pulled out a small artifact, a half-metal, half-crystal object. He placed it in the center of the door. It began to glow. Then, slowly, the door opened. Behind it was a room filled with light. In the center was a floating cube, spinning slowly. Thalia stepped closer. The cube showed images of the war, the betrayal, the original peace treaty, and finally, a message. If the Ilari and the humans fight again, they will both fall. Only together can they survive. Thalia gasped. This was hidden from the council. Jace nodded. I was told to keep it safe. By your mother. Thalia's hand covered her mouth. Her knees nearly gave way. She planned all of this, she whispered. She wanted peace. Real peace. Jace placed a hand on her shoulder. And now it's your turn. Suddenly, an alarm echoed through the cave. A drone had followed them. The rebels had found the signal. Jace grabbed his rifle. Thalia drew her blade. They're coming, he said. How many? Jace checked the scan. Too many. Thalia's voice didn't shake. Then we fight. He looked at her and smiled for the first time. Now you sound like someone I could follow. Enemies at the gate. The cave walls glowed a dim blue. Dust floated in the air like ancient ghosts. Princess Thalia stood still, staring at the spinning cube of light. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. Only together can they survive. Behind her, Jace reloaded his rifle in silence. Every click, every metal snap, felt louder in the cave's tight air. Then came the sound. Boom! A distant thud shook the stone beneath their feet. The enemy had found them. Jace didn't flinch. He calmly placed the cube inside a reinforced case and handed it to Thalia. "Run with this if I fall," he said. Thalia's fingers tightened around the case. "I'm not leaving you behind." Jace gave a half smile. "You say that now." Another boom. Closer. Thalia stepped beside him, twin alien blades glowing on her arms. "I once called you weak. I was wrong." Jace looked at her. "I once thought I'd never fight again. I was wrong too." And just like that, they were no longer princess and soldier. No longer alien and human. They were warriors. The cave entrance exploded inward. Flames and rubble flew through the air. Smoke poured in like a black storm. A squad of rebel assassins entered first, silent, fast, and armed with alien plasma spears. Their faces were covered by dark helmets with red lenses. They expected fear. What they saw instead was fire. Jace fired 3 shots. 3 rebels fell. Thalia leaped forward like lightning, slicing through the 4th. Her blades hissed as they cut metal and flesh. "Keep the cube safe," Jace shouted. More rebels poured in. A mix of species, Eleri traders, human mercenaries, and synthetic machines built for war. This was not a rescue mission. It was an execution. Thalia ducked behind a stone pillar, panting. Blood dripped from a cut on her cheek. Jace joined her, back to the wall. "How many are left?" she asked. "Too many," he answered. She looked at him. "Then we change the odds." Jace checked his belt. 2 grenades. 1 flash bomb. 1 chance. "Do you trust me?" he asked. Thalia nodded, now more than ever. With a signal nod, they both moved. Jace threw the flash bomb. The cave lit up with blinding white light. The rebels screamed. Thalia charged, slashing in the confusion. Jace followed, precise and ruthless. They pushed back to the cave mouth. The sunlight outside burned through the smoke. But just as they reached the exit, a new shadow stepped forward, tall, armored in black, with glowing red eyes. His voice was cold. "Princess Thalia, you should have stayed hidden." Jace raised his weapon. "Who are you?" The figure removed his helmet. Thalia gasped. "General Kale." He was once her father's most trusted guard, now turned rebel. Kale smiled darkly. "You've grown strong, princess, but strength without loyalty is weakness." Thalia stepped forward, eyes burning. "You betrayed the crown." "No," Kale said. "I saved it from lies. The humans poisoned us once. I won't let it happen again." Jace raised his rifle. "Then you'll have to go through me." Kale smiled again, gladly. The battle that followed was brutal. Kale moved like a shadow, fast and deadly. Thalia's blades met his in a dance of fire. Jace fired shot after shot, forcing Kale to dodge, but never slowing him down. Blood was drawn. Wounds opened. The air stank of smoke and pain. But together, Jace and Thalia moved like one. He guarded her back. She struck when he distracted. Kale finally growled, bleeding from his side. "You two are a problem," he spat. "But problems can be erased." He pressed a button on his wrist. A new sound began, a high-pitched hum. Jace's eyes widened. "He's calling an orbital strike." Thalia turned. "We have to move. Now." They ran from the cave as the mountain shook behind them. Rocks cracked and trees burst into flames. They slid down the cliffs, dodging falling debris. Thunder filled the sky. Behind them, a beam of white fire fell from space, erasing the entire mountain. The cave, the truth, the evidence, gone. Thalia screamed. No, the cube. Jace pulled her down behind a stone, just as the shockwave hit. When it was over, the mountain was no more, just smoke and silence. Thalia's eyes were wide. He destroyed the proof. Jace reached into his jacket and pulled out the cube, still glowing inside its case. I gave you a fake, he said. I'm not that easy to kill. Thalia laughed, a wild, beautiful sound in the middle of the ruins. You are full of surprises. They moved through the forest quickly now. There was no time to rest. Drones buzzed overhead. The rebels knew they were alive. We need to send this cube to someone we trust, Thalia said. I know someone, Jace replied. Someone who owes me their life. They reached an old human outpost deep in the woods. Broken, overgrown, forgotten. But someone was there. A woman stepped out, tall, scared, and strong. Jace, she said, I thought you were dead. Not yet, he replied. And I brought the princess of Ilari. The woman raised an eyebrow. You always bring me trouble. Jace smiled. You owe me. She sighed. Come in. Inside, the cube was placed on a scanner. The woman, a hacker named Rena, connected it to an old network. This message, it's old, she said, but real and powerful. Can you broadcast it? Thalia asked. To the whole galaxy, Rena said. But if I do, everyone will come for you. Your father's allies. The rebels. Even the humans who want war. Jace looked at Thalia. She took a deep breath. Then let them come. Outside, the sky was no longer calm. Black ships moved in. The rebels had followed them. Rena turned pale. They found us. Jace stepped outside, rifle in hand. Thalia followed. Get ready, he said. They'll be at the gate in minutes. And sure enough, they were. 100 soldiers, tanks, air drones, the full might of the rebellion. Thalia looked at Jace. Her eyes were not afraid. Will you still stand with me? Jace smiled. Until my last breath. War or love. The sky was burning with fire and light. Princess Thalia stood on the roof of the old outpost, her cloak whipping in the wind. Below her, hundreds of rebels surrounded the forest clearing. Tanks hummed. Plasma rifles gleamed in the sun. And above them all, floated her father's royal flagship, the symbol of the Ilari Empire. Jace stood beside her, his eyes never leaving the sky. So, he said, calm even now, do you think they came to save us, or silence us? Thalia didn't answer. She didn't know. Inside the outpost, Rena worked quickly. Her hands flew across the old console. I've connected the cube, she said. The truth is ready to broadcast. But if we send it now, there's no going back. Thalia stepped inside, her voice firm. Send it. Jace looked at her. That will make you a traitor in the eyes of your own people. Thalia met his gaze. I'd rather be a traitor to lies than loyal to a war I don't believe in. Rena hesitated, then pressed the final command. All across the galaxy, screens lit up. In city halls, warships, schools, and even rebel camps, the same message played. An old glowing image of Thalia's mother appeared. She was younger, beautiful, and powerful. Her voice filled every room. If this message is heard, it means peace has failed again. That old hatred has returned. My daughter, if you are hearing this, remember, no side will win this war. Only when human and Ilari walk as one can the stars be free again. The image faded, but the silence it left behind screamed louder than war. Inside the outpost, Thalia stood frozen. She hadn't heard her mother's voice in 12 years. Jace walked up and stood beside her. You did it, he said. But Thalia didn't smile. No, we just lit the fire. Now comes the storm. Outside, a new sound filled the air, the sound of a royal dropship landing. Thalia stepped out first, flanked by Jace and Rena. From the ship came a tall figure in golden armor. Her father, the Emperor of Ilari. He looked older, tired, but his eyes still carried the weight of 1,000 decisions. He walked toward her slowly. No guards, no weapons. "Thalia," he said softly. She bowed her head, but only slightly. "Father," she replied. He looked at her long and hard. "You broadcasted the message," he said. "I did. You broke council law." "I did." He paused. Then, to everyone's shock, he smiled. "Good." Thalia blinked. "What?" "I hoped you would," her father said. "The rebels inside the council tried to stop me from returning. They feared what I might say if I saw you again." Jace stepped forward, tense. "So you're not here to arrest us?" The Emperor turned to him. "You're the one who saved my daughter. Twice. I should thank you, or at least stop others from trying to kill you." He looked up at the massive army waiting in the trees. "But I can't stop what's already begun. War is here. All we can do now is decide what we're fighting for." Back inside, Thalia sat with her father, Jace, and Rena. The Emperor told them everything. General Kale has taken control of half the fleet. The council is split. Some still believe in peace. Others want to wipe Earth off the stars. They fear humans because they do not understand them. He turned to Jace. "You are a ghost to them. A story they wish was never real." Jace nodded. "I felt that before." Thalia placed her hand on his. The Emperor saw it. "You care for him." She didn't hide it. "Yes." "Then you must prepare, because both sides will now use your feelings against you." The next few days were a blur of movement. The rebels pushed forward, attacking towns and space stations that supported peace. Thalia's face was now on every screen. Some called her a hero, others a traitor. And Jace had become something more than a soldier. To some, he was now a symbol. To others, a threat. Late one night, in a quiet tent outside the capital, Thalia stood beside a map of the battlefield. Jace walked in, tired from training soldiers. He sat down beside her. "Long day?" he asked. "Long life," she replied. They both laughed quietly. Then Jace turned serious. "When this is over, what happens to us?" Thalia looked down. "I don't know," she whispered. "Even if we win peace, the galaxy might not let us be together." Jace reached out and touched her cheek. "Then we fight for it. Not just peace, but for us." Her eyes glistened. "You'd stand against the stars for me." He smiled. "I already did." The next morning, everything changed. A coded message arrived from deep inside the rebel fleet. It was short, but it froze Thalia in place. They planned to take Jace. She looked up at him, her eyes wide. "It's a trap. They're not after me anymore. They're after you." Jace nodded. "I'm not surprised. They'll try to blame everything on you. Say you tricked me. Turn the galaxy against you. Let them," Jace said calmly. Thalia shook her head. "No, I won't lose you." She turned to Rena. "Get me a ship. I'm going to the rebel base myself." Jace stood. "You're not going alone." Thalia's voice was like fire. "This time, you're staying. If they take you, it's over. But me, they might still listen." She left that night, alone. Inside the rebel ship, General Kale watched the stars. When Thalia entered, he didn't look surprised. "So the princess comes to speak peace again." "I didn't come to speak," she said. "I came to give you one last chance." Kale turned, his eyes dark. "There is no peace, only power." Thalia stepped closer. "Then you'll never understand love, or loyalty, or sacrifice." Kale laughed. "Love? With a human? He walked up to her and whispered, "He'll die alone." She didn't blink. "No, he won't." She pulled something from her cloak. The truth cube. The real one. Cale froze. "You didn't destroy it." Thalia smiled coldly. "No, I kept it where you'd never find it. Inside the ship of the man you fear the most. The blood of kings." The stars watched in silence. Jace stood alone on the rocky cliff outside the rebel-infested valley, the cold wind slapping his face. Below him, the black flags of General Cale's war fleet circled a prisoner transport. Inside it was Thalia. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe. "You shouldn't have gone alone," he whispered into the dark. Behind him, Reyna approached, carrying a portable scanner. "Jace," she said softly, "we found something strange when we tracked your blood sample through the cube's defense lock. You might want to see this." Jace didn't move. "Later." "No," she insisted, her voice urgent. "This can't wait." Inside the old command shelter, Reyna threw the data onto a projection screen. A DNA chart lit up, complicated numbers, but Reyna translated them simply. "The cube, the ancient tech Thalia found. It responded to your DNA because it already knew it. You're not just a match, Jace. You're a descendant of the First Union." Jace frowned. "What's that?" Reyna zoomed into an old, faded hologram from Ilari history. Two warriors, one Ilari queen and one human warlord, stood side by side in front of a glowing throne. The human's face looked like Jace. "This was more than a treaty," Reyna said. "It was a bond. Bloodline and power shared across species. The first human and Ilari to rule together." Jace stared at the image. "My grandmother used to tell me stories about ancient stars," he said. "Tales of a human king who loved an alien queen and disappeared into the stars. I thought she was just dreaming." Reyna looked him dead in the eye. "She wasn't. That story is about you. You're carrying a bloodline no one thought existed. You're the last heir of the First Union." Jace stood in silence for a long time. Then, quietly, he said, "If they knew that, they wouldn't just fear me. They'd hunt me." Reyna nodded. "That's why they want the cube. Not just to silence Thalia, but to erase you." Jace picked up his rifle, checked the charge, and looked at Reyna with steel in his eyes. "Then let's give them something they'll never forget." Meanwhile, deep inside Cal's flagship, Thalia sat in a cold energy cage. Her hands were bound, but her eyes still burned with fire. Cal circled her like a shadow. "You gave us the cube," he said. "A noble act of surrender." Thalia smirked. "It was never surrender." He narrowed his eyes. "Then what was it?" "A warning." Cal laughed. "Your human won't reach you. You're in the sky now. Alone." Thalia leaned closer to the bars of the cage. "You think I'm afraid to die," she said. "I've already lived with fear. I've survived fire, betrayal, and war. But do you know what I won't live with?" Cal raised an eyebrow. "Losing him," she said, and smiled. "And if you think I'm dangerous, wait until you meet Jace when he's angry." On the edge of Cal's fleet, an unidentified ship exited warp space. Small, dark, fast. Inside, Jace sat in the pilot's seat, hand steady, heart calm. "Reyna," he said, "I need you to transmit the original Union symbol through every open channel. Broadcast the symbol burned into the ancient cube. That'll expose your lineage to the whole galaxy," she warned. "Good," Jace said. "Let them know a king has returned." The fleet responded fast. 3 attack ships turned to intercept him. Jace flipped a switch and whispered, "Let's dance." Lasers flashed. Engines roared. The sky turned red. Jace's ship dodged and spun through enemy fire like a falcon in the wind. He fired once, twice, each time hitting the exact spot he aimed for. But there were too many. His ship took a hit. Sparks flew inside. Alarms blared. Still, he kept flying. He broke past the blockade and dove straight for the flagship. "I'm coming for you, Thalia," he said. Inside the flagship, Cal watched the symbol appear on every screen. 2 hands, 1 alien, 1 human, clasped in unity, surrounded by stars. He paled. "That can't be. He's real." A young officer stepped forward, shaken. "Sir, the crew is panicking. Some of them are surrendering." Cal snarled and drew his sword. "Then they will die with him." Jace breached the outer hull. Explosions rocked the ship. He tore through corridors like a storm, using every weapon, every skill he had learned in the war. Rebel soldiers tried to stop him, but they weren't fighting a man anymore. They were fighting history. And Jace had come to take back what was his. Thalia heard the noise before she saw him. A deep, distant explosion. Screams. Doors tearing open. Then, his voice. "Thalia." She turned just as the cage burst open, and Jace stepped through the smoke, bloody but standing. "Took you long enough," she smiled. He grinned. "You always were impatient." She grabbed his hand, and for a moment, just a moment, they stood still, 2 souls finally whole again. Then the door behind them opened, and Cal walked in. His armor was blackened. His blade dripped with energy. "This ends now." Jace raised his weapon. "Yes, it does." The fight shook the ship. Cal was strong, fast, trained. But Jace had something more. Purpose. And Thalia fought like the daughter of a queen. They moved as one. Blades clashed. Shots rang out. Cal landed a hit. Jace fell back. Blood dripped from his side. Thalia screamed and attacked, her blade catching Cal's arm, tearing it open. Cal struck her back, knocking her to the ground. He raised his sword over her, but Jace caught it with his bare hand. Blood poured from his palm, but he held the blade tight. "You're done, Cal." He pulled the sword forward, spun, and drove it through Cal's chest. The general gasped, once, then fell. The silence that followed felt like peace. Jace dropped the blade and collapsed beside Thalia. She caught him in her arms. "You're hurt," she said. "You should see the other guy." She laughed softly through her tears. But then, alarms sounded again. More ships. Not Cal's. Something bigger. Something older. Rena's voice came through the communicator. "Jace. Thalia. Something's happening." The broadcast awakened something. Ancient. They turned to the main window and watched as a massive ship exited the dark between stars. A ship larger than anything they had ever seen. Its hull was silver and gold, and on its surface was the same symbol from the cube. The princess who chose her warrior. The stars had never looked so close. From the shattered windows of General Cal's fallen flagship, Jace and Thalia stood shoulder to shoulder, staring into the great unknown. But this time, the unknown stared back. A massive ship glided silently toward them, bigger than any vessel in either the human or Illyri fleets. Its glowing core pulsed like a beating heart, and its golden wings stretched wide like a god descending from the stars. Etched into its hull was a symbol both ancient and sacred. A human hand holding an Illyri blade, both wrapped in fire and light. Thalia whispered the name passed down in legend. The Star Throne. Jace stood frozen, bleeding but calm. "It's real," he said softly. "And it's coming for me." Rena's voice echoed through their communicator. "Jace, its systems are scanning your DNA. It's recognizing you. It thinks you're its heir." The Star Throne didn't speak. It sang. A hum filled the air. Not metal, not machine. Music. Deep, ancient tones that felt like memory, like time unfolding. Then, beams of soft light reached out and wrapped around Jace and Thalia, lifting them gently off the floor. Neither resisted. They floated, hand in hand, toward the waiting ship. Inside the Star Throne was no cockpit, no control deck, no weapons bay. Instead, they stepped into a vast chamber filled with stars. The ceiling shimmered like the night sky. The floor was a mirror of galaxies. And in the center, a single platform hovered, the seat of union. It pulsed softly as they approached. "This is where the first queen and human king ruled from," Thalia whispered. "And died together," Jace added, "protecting their people from the Great War." A voice, not male, not female, not machine, rose from the air around them. "Your blood is known. Your bond is true. The Star Throne wakes. For the chosen two." Thalia felt her chest tighten. "Jace, it's asking us to sit together, to complete what they started." Jace stepped closer. "Are you sure?" She looked at him, truly looked at him. This was not the broken soldier who had lived alone in a wooden cabin. This was not the cold-eyed man who feared no rebel. This was the man who had carried her as a child, who stood against armies, who risked everything not for power, but for her. And she loved him. "I once said I didn't want a human husband," she whispered, smiling through tears. "But I never knew. I wanted you." She reached for his hand. He took it without hesitation. Together, they stepped onto the throne. The moment they sat, light exploded outward in every direction. From the Star Throne's heart, waves of energy spread across space. Through warships, rebel fleets, council satellites, even Earth's deep defense beacons. Everything paused. Weapons powered down. Engines stalled. And everywhere, across both human and Ilari space, a message was heard. The bond is awakened. The line has returned. The throne is claimed. Inside the rebel capital, commanders screamed as their systems locked. Ships refused to move. Weapons turned cold. General Kell's old fleet lost all power. And then, every screen across the galaxy lit up. The image of Jace and Thalia sitting hand in hand on the glowing throne. "We are not enemies," Thalia's voice rang across the stars. "We are the bridge, the bond, the blood of both worlds." Jace's voice followed. Calm, strong. "We do not bring war. We bring truth. You can keep fighting, or you can follow us. Together. This is your choice, not by force, but by will." Then the screen faded, and silence followed. But silence doesn't mean stillness. Within days, ships began to move. Not to fight, but to kneel. First one Ilari battlecruiser. Then 2 human destroyers. Then fleets, one by one, powered down and turned toward the Star Throne. The universe listened. Back on the throne, Thalia leaned into Jace's shoulder. "We started a war just by loving each other. Then let's end it by not stopping," he said. She smiled. "You always say things like a soldier." "It's all I know." She kissed him gently. "Then stay with me and learn something new." Weeks passed. The war didn't vanish overnight. There were still those who feared peace, who hated what they didn't understand. But they were fewer now. Because the galaxy had seen something more powerful than weapons. It had seen a human and alien choose each other. Not for politics. Not for power. But for love. For honor. For truth. The Ilari Council eventually bowed. The human union followed after. Treaties were rewritten. New oaths made. And at the center of it all were Jace and Thalia. They didn't take crowns. They didn't wear robes. They simply stood where others had fallen and chose unity over fear. 1 year later, on a peaceful green moon under a golden sky, Jace stood in a black jacket, adjusting his collar nervously. Thalia stepped forward in a shimmering dress woven with light, laughter in her eyes. "You fought rebels, fleets, and history itself," she teased. "But a wedding ceremony makes you nervous." Jace grinned. "I'm only human." She leaned closer. "And still the strongest man I've ever known." They stood before a garden of both earth trees and Ilari crystal blossoms. Humans and aliens stood together, soldiers and civilians, Rena cried loudly in the front row. The officiant smiled. Do you, Princess Thalia, take this human as your chosen? She didn't hesitate. I already have. And you, Jace. He looked at her like the stars had all lined up just for this moment. Since the day I carried you through fire. They kissed. And the galaxy changed again. Not because of war, but because two enemies chose love. Epilogue. Far beyond the outer stars, deep in the uncharted void, a hidden satellite blinked awake. It watched the Union, recorded the light, stored the data. Then, quietly, it sent a message. Not to humans, not to Ilari, but to something else, something older, something that now knew. The Star Throne had returned, and the new rulers of the galaxy had been chosen. The screen blinked one last message before going dark. The bond has reawakened. Prepare. The end.